Hello, welcome. It is Geographically Challenged, episode number 68. We're going to discuss lots of different things today, mostly about the Asia RMR. A lot of you guys were tuning in to the Asia RMR. I saw you guys all in the co-stream or maybe watching the mainstream. TeaTime was casting that, so we've brought him in again. I would say special guest.
But
I'm
really sound disappointed when you say again. Like, again?
No, I mean, the thing is,
we can't get anyone else.
This is where I was going to go with
There's only two brown people in the entire world who actually care about Asian Counter-Strike.
Probably, that's true. No, that's not true. I know there's a few Pakistani players. Anyway, I was going to say, like, yeah. and him. I was going to say, like, you're a special guest, but at this point, I don't feel like you are a special guest anymore. Like, you are kind of like a returning guest. This is probably like, what, 4 or 5 now? Even one of them was a live episode, so you're just a guest now. You're just one of the recurring guests. Like, you and probably Mac are the two that seem to pop up the most, so that's nice to have. Nice to have you back, though, and I'm sure you've got a lot to say about the Asia RMR when we get into that one.
Did you know, Jordan, that I've been watching Geographically Challenged for so long at this point, and I've never told you this, but it was like a solid 2 years of me just being like, when is he going to invite me on? When is he going to invite me on? I'm really looking forward to being on this show. And now that I've been here a lot, it was worth the wait, guys. You guys don't know what you're missing out on.
My thing is...
You just undersold that so much. You should have been like, and now that I'm on this show, I realize Jordan's a fucking cunt. Like, this show sucks dick. Like,
yeah, I don't even get paid for this.
Like
and then you just storm out.
Because Jordan's a cunt and we suck dick. Isn't that what we're all here for?
We're all here for that. No, well, I mean, the thing is, like, I am the kind of person that just doesn't really interact with people until I work with them. And then when I work with them, it's like, oh, you exist. And that was more or less how things happened, I think, for us as well. We didn't really work together until we worked together, and now it's like, oh, now he exists and I can talk to him. So that's good. Anyway, Pilski's back as well. Good to see you, Pilski. You're looking fresh. I feel like you had a haircut or something. Anyway,
didn't, but yeah, thanks.
You look great. You look great. I'm just trying to be a nice guy.
Going outside, I just took my dogs for a walk, so
lovely.
That was pretty poggers.
Lovely. But what I did want to shout out quickly to those of you who watched the last episode, we got 10k viewers on the last episode, so very much appreciate that one. That is the best episode that we've had in terms of viewership that has not been a guest episode. The only one that's actually beaten it was the episode that I did with Kay and where all the Mongolian fans came and watched. But 10k on that episode for the Asia RMR preview was pretty fucking awesome. So thank you guys for that. Let's get into it though. Asia RMR, general takeaways from you guys. Was it a good event? Was it a bad event? How did you feel? I guess we'll start with you, TeaTime, obviously being the guest and having worked the event. What's your general takeaway from this Asia RMR?
Listen, I think that every RMR that I'm working is a good RMR, right? Let's make that very clear. I think that is the definition of good Counter-Strike, which is when I'm getting paid to watch it. That being said, though, it was really good in the sense that I think the right teams went forward. I was very happy about that. Also, it was actually quite good in the sense that I thought there were some fun storylines that developed. I thought the Talon versus FlyQuest BO1 was pretty good. I think it was a nice debut for Talon in the world stage. I know they've been playing Europe, but obviously there's been questions about how good they actually are. Some of them asked on your podcast because you guys, for some reason, don't know Australian Counter-Strike. What the hell is wrong with you people? Of course, they were going to beat FlyQuest. But yeah, some things obviously disappointing, like the existence of Drillas, but other things, I think it was a good time.
Anything on your own, Pilski? How much did you get to watch?
I kept an eye on the results and I watched like a game or two. I think I don't know, like the fact that the BO1s kind of fuck up the whole tournament quite often, and that was the case here. Like the Rare Atom got like the piss easy qualification where they just had to beat GR and Talon to qualify. So the fact that they didn't even really play like a top 3 team in Asia and they get to qualify for the major is a bit like meh. But at the same time, they're a Chinese team at the Chinese major, so that's probably good for the scene. I think Drillas were pretty damn close to qualifying. Like they took a map of Mongolz. They were like rounds away from beating FlyQuest. So that top 3 nightmare scenario definitely could have happened. And yeah, outside of that, I would say like pretty uneventful. I think like the BO1 upset for Talon FlyQuest was crazy because like FlyQuest, for anyone that doesn't know, has been like super dominant in Oceania for like 5 years and barely ever loses to any other teams. So the fact that they dropped the best of 1 to Talon, especially in the form that they were in, was kind of crazy. And then I think, yeah, Lynn Vision just wasn't that great. I would have liked to see Rare Atom like tested by an actual top 3 team. And I was surprised at how hard Alter Ego were trying.
Pilski, who is a top 3 team for you? Because you're saying this, but I'm wondering who a top 3 team is.
FlyQuest, Mongolz, and then probably like if they had played Drillas, that would be like the other team that would be like borderline the same level as them. If not, I would say a little bit better based on how that they played in this tournament. Like honestly, I think if Drillas played Rare Atom, I'm not sure that Rare Atom would win more than 50% of the time, based on what I watched.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, let's just go through the list one by one, get the quick thoughts on each team and however, whatever. We can dive into Drillas. I think Drillas is a particularly interesting one to talk about, but we'll start from the bottom, because those are the teams that no one gives a shit about. Although, apparently a lot of people gave a shit about Alter Ego. I was kind of surprised that as many people wanted Alter Ego to perform and to play well as they did. They seem to have quite a lot of support, and I think that's kind of like the Bentet Zion factor. Some of the OGs. People don't really seem to be big fans of Freeman necessarily, but there's a lot of Zion fans. That HLTV article maybe helped out in that respect as well. But yeah, I mean, it was a little bit disappointing in the end for Alter Ego. They took a map off of Lynn Vision, so I can't say they had a completely terrible run necessarily, but very much, at least as far as my expectations were concerned, I think they I almost think they exceeded expectations by getting a map, to be quite honest with you. I was pretty staunchly putting them in the 0 and 2 category. Alongside GR, I think GR, of all the teams, probably had the worst run, but to be fair, they had to play against FlyQuest in the lower bracket, so what can you do there? But as far as the 0 and 2 teams were concerned, I really don't think we got too many surprises. Honestly, the biggest surprise for me was Alter Ego actually taking a map off of Lynn Vision for those 2 teams, but otherwise I was thoroughly unimpressed by those 2 teams.
I think Michael and I might be the sleeper only massive fans of GR in the world, to be honest, because both of us thought GR were going to be a dark horse to go forward. Because I didn't agree with what you guys said on the podcast at all, by the way, because I know GR on Challenger League is a lot worse than GR should be because they're playing on 100 ping, 80 to 100 ping all the time. So we were really hyped by the fact that, hey, these guys got their boot camp in Europe. They actually look a lot better. Wecht looked really good as well in Europe and everything. But a lot of the times it did feel like they weren't able to really play their proper game because the nerves were very clearly visible in the games that we were casting. So yeah, they got 0-2'd out, but I was very disappointed about that, to be honest. I thought GR would go slightly further than they did.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I thought that they would have a chance, and to be fair, had they not played against FlyQuest and had they played against Talon, there may have been a bit of a discussion to be had there. But otherwise, I think they got a little bit fucked by the bracket draw, but it is what it is. That's just sometimes how it be. And realistically, whether they got past that lower bracket round 1, I don't think they were going to go any further than lower bracket round 2, because they inevitably then would have played against Rare Atom or FlyQuest. And in either case, I would have backed, the team that obviously Rare Atom beat them 13-4 in the upper bracket. FlyQuest 2-0'd them pretty comfortably in the lower bracket. It ends in lower bracket round 2 either way, in my opinion. But as far as those middle of the pack teams are concerned, I think that's where things got a little bit more interesting. And that was always where, at least in my mind, this bracket and the power ranking was always more interesting going in as well, because it was very hard to sort of differentiate, I felt, between the top 2, which obviously in my opinion were Mongolz and FlyQuest. We thought they would go through no problems at all. But then the likes of Rare Atom, Talon, Lynn Vision, Drillas, it felt like that was potentially going to be a bit of a toss-up. I think most people probably had Lynn Vision on the outer, although there were some of the, I would say some of the more international audience were looking at Lynn Vision and saying, yeah, these guys should be good. Obviously, I think they're just a little bit uninformed. They're not really paying attention as much with Asian CS. And so they expected the flying of Fufu Lynn Vision to be decent, which we obviously have a bit of a different opinion on, having seen them play a little bit more domestically. But
flying wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad, to be honest. But Fufu, I don't think I've ever seen him have a good game the whole time he's been on Lynn Vision. And I don't know. I just don't know why he's in the team at this point.
I mean,
the issue with flying is, sorry, Jordan, but the issue with flying is he's a known quantity. Flying's been around for so long. I've been coaching teams that have been playing against Flying in ESEA Open for so long at this point. He's really not going to get a lot better. It's not like a Child King or a Li Hang where everyone was watching them from season to season. People watching their demos, I watched a lot of Child King and Li Hang demos, actually. And from season to season, it was like, oh my God, these guys are getting so much better. They're mechanically cracked out. Wow. Li Hang, especially decision-making, was getting a lot better. Child King, a little bit less so. Child King's still kind of insane, old-school Chinese Counter-Strike player. But yeah, I don't know. Lynn Vision just didn't do anything with the sticker money. They didn't really get any of the good players that were available in the Chinese region, it felt like. And unfortunately, Westmelon's time as an IGL seems to be kind of over as well, right? He can't really innovate to get his team forward. Zacher and sometimes Amelia, but mostly Zacher is the only real good part of this team if Westmelon's going to be an IGL.
Yep. No, I agree. And that's the problem with Lynn Vision coming into this event was There was a couple of maps where Zaka really did quite well. I can't recall if it was against Alter Ego or Talon, but at least in the game against FlyQuest, it didn't really feel like he was a massive factor at all. And it sort of feels like if Lynn Vision don't have Zaka performing, they lose their X factor. There's no one else that can really step up, and we see the result, which is complete different. You know, the change from last RMR to this RMR for Lynn Vision is instead of qualifying in that lower bracket or qualifying against FlyQuest as the second seed, and in this case it would have been third seed, they just get 2-0'd. And it wasn't even like that was not a competitive series between FlyQuest and Lynn Vision. So that was how we thought it would go last time around. I would say I don't know necessarily, and I mean I'm jumping ahead here by talking about FlyQuest. But we can talk about the other guys in a little bit. But FlyQuest, I don't know that they necessarily played like an amazing RMR. I don't think that was a fantastic display necessarily from FlyQuest. Like they did what they had to do. They got it over the line. And that game against Lynn Vision was kind of like, oh, FlyQuest is actually at that level that we sort of hoped to see from them in that particular game. But the game against Talon, they looked disappointing in. I mean, game against Xia, I'm just going to throw that one out. I don't give a shit about that game. I think that's a nothing game anyway for them. And then the Drillas game, I, at that point, kind of felt like, Jam, am I watching the death of this team?
Yeah.
Like, this team...
I thought they were going to get knocked out.
If they lose that game, that team does not exist anymore. I'm sure. I'm confident that either there's massive changes to the team itself, and you maybe keep a couple of the pieces, and FlyQuest builds around, I don't know, Dexter, Inns, potentially Faceit as a core, maybe, would be my guess. Or they just completely blow the team up and they all go their own separate ways. Someone gets an offer to go here and there and whatever. Either way, I think there would have been big changes to that team had they lost that series against Drillas. And they were very fucking close to losing that series. Let's be real. Like, triple OT in a series against Drillas, I don't think FlyQuest would look at that and say, we played our best game of Counter-Strike on that particular day, especially after having come back from Atlanta. So, when we were coming in with the conversation in the previous episode about FlyQuest and saying, I think they're going to be a lock-in, they're going to go through the upper bracket, they're going to look sick. And that was all predicated on what we saw at Atlanta. And we were saying, well, if they can replicate even like 70% of that, they should be a shoo-in. I don't know that they necessarily hit that same level. So it was kind of a reversion back to a bit more of a mean from FlyQuest, but obviously happy to see them qualifying. The only takeaway for me is that had Mongolz not actually managed to get that third slot, they may not have qualified. Drillas almost beat them. What would happen in a game against Rare Adam? We don't know necessarily, but it was a very, very close thing, closer than I would have liked it to have been for FlyQuest. And you can say that's down to BO1s. Would they have beaten Talon in BO3 in that upper bracket? Probably. But end of the day, they got very close to getting knocked out, and that would have been the end of that team, which would have been very, very scary.
I don't blame BO1s in this. I think that's unfair, because if you're looking over towards that Talon game, let me open the stats just to make sure I'm not making this up, but I think they won both Bistro rounds as well. FlyQuest... No, okay, so FlyQuest won the 4-spy round and everything. FlyQuest started up 6-2, and then they lost from there. If you're losing from 6-2 up in a BO1, I don't think you can really blame BO1s. I think Azar just really completely outcalled them, and I think, honestly, that could have happened in a BO3 as well. Sure, FlyQuest dominated domestic, and you guys know much more about than I do, but I do think it's easy to underestimate how much pressure and nerves affects a team like FlyQuest in a situation like the RMR, where this is what the team exists for, right? So there's that. That being said, though, FlyQuest was never going to perform like they did in Atlanta. Dexter had an MVP performance. Alistair was, playing the best form I've ever seen of him in his career outside of domestic Counter-Strike. Inns was not that good, but, it felt like everyone else was showing up. That being said, is pretty FlyQuest at this stage, because at the very least, I'll say this. I'm a big Faceit doubter. I've always said that I think he's been overrated by you guys especially. I thought that even the global community was just overrating him massively. I think Faceit actually stepped up for the first time in his career in a big way throughout the event. Yep. Because, even in that series against Drillas on Ancient, the reason why it gets to all those overtimes, sure, Faceit doesn't end up with the best stats. I think it was Inns in the end. But Faceit, Inns was doing nothing on Ancient for the longest time. And then Faceit manages to get these multi-kill rounds again and again, and then he gets Inns back into it. Liaz starts being a bit more relevant as well. That's the other thing. I actually saw a little bit more CT side proactivity from Liaz in this tournament than I normally do as well. Again, mostly on maps like Ancient, which they're very comfortable on. And there are good signs. Alistair's also not regressed to being particularly awful. He's just kind of a medium level player, and he's fine. He shouldn't be a major liability unless there's an insane AWPer in front of him. So I actually think this is pretty decent from FlyQuest in the sense that the way this is shaping out, I could see them making top 16 at the major. And you're right that there probably would have been big changes, but I am slightly disappointed as well about this for FlyQuest, and I hope that they really do set their sights higher, because one thing that I'm really getting sick and tired of is this Urcast coaching thing. Even the analyst that FlyQuest has brought in isn't someone with like proper European experience either. JTR is their analyst who they brought in. JTR was the inactive, like the assistant coach for Audic, basically. And the coach for Audic before. That's not really proper European like experience coming into it. This is an organization with money. Sure, I understand you don't want to boot camp all the time. You don't want to do that Talon lifestyle. I understand that. That's okay. I respect that. But at the very least, put your resources into getting some good support staff and this and that and everything. And I hope they actually do look into this, because I don't think Urcast is adding very much to the team, because all of the progression that these individual players have made, all of the things I'm talking about, the CT side progression, I'm pretty sure it's coming from Dexter, because this is a lot of what he managed to do on Mouse as well.
Well, I'm kind of glad, at least that there is some positive spin to it. I think, again, obviously, we'll talk about it in the next episode, which I believe we'll be doing next week, ahead of the major, what our expectations for FlyQuest are at the major. But yeah, I think without necessarily having a look at the matchups and what they have to play, who they have to play, I think I would tend to agree that there is a chance that they can go a step further at this major. There are positive signs from the previous two events that we've seen from FlyQuest. Obviously, Atlanta, yes, that was maybe an overperformance from Alistair and Dexter hitting a peak level that he doesn't always hit, but we know that he can hit on some reasonable bases. FlyQuest played pretty well at this RMR in regards to their rifling core as well. I tend to echo your thoughts with Vexar. I think he had a phenomenal performance, especially on Ancient. He dragged them kicking and screaming through a couple of those OT rounds, and were it not for him, they would have lost that series. And Liaz, actually, yeah, like you say, I want to give him a little bit of credit as well. I think he had a couple of really critical moments, which was kind of good to see. So there are, while I would say, I think overall it was probably still not the level or not the performance that FlyQuest would have wanted, because they lost to Talon in that upper bracket. They did get enough done. They did show us enough, and there was enough to sort of take some positives away, and hopefully that trend will continue going into the major, but we'll have to see. Have you got anything else to say about FlyQuest, Pilski, or should we jump forward?
I just think they're like inconsistent. Like if you isolated any of the series that they played, you would be like, these guys are garbage or these guys are amazing. Like they absolutely dumpstered Lynn Vision, and they struggled to beat like a puck team with only a little bit of preparation from Europe. So like the fact that they can potentially get knocked out by Drillas and lose BO1s to Talon, I don't think it actually really bodes well for the next stage of the competition, because you've got the teams to come through from the Europe RMR, but even like the Americas teams, like I don't really look at any of the Americas teams and then look at FlyQuest and think, wow, that's a guaranteed win. Like I legitimately think they could lose to pretty much anybody in the next stage of the major with how inconsistent that they're looking. Like if they struggled this much in the Asia RMR, like the confidence level for you to come through the Asia RMR has to be what Mongolz did. Like you have to fist good, like you have to fist everyone for you to be like confidently like you're going to make it through the next stage twist. Otherwise, I just wouldn't believe it. So I don't think anybody out of the Asia RMR bar Mongolz is going to do anything in the next stage of the Swiss, to be honest.
I'm going to push back a little bit on your Drillas angle, Pilski. I'm sorry, but this is just, I hate this narrative that everyone's spilling. And I think it's partially because of the Oni interview as well, which is that, oh, this is just a pug team, etc. This is not just a pug team. This is like, Wara made it to the quarterfinals of a recent major. Cenari's made, 3 majors in a row as well. Kvem is a legit talent. Like, Kvem actually has some eyes on him and everything. Haji, like, this team would be at the European RMR if they just played for 3 months in the lead up to the close qualifier selection period. Like, this is a team good enough to be at the Euro RMR. This is a team good enough to, cause an upset over, like, the 8th best team in the European RMR, something like that. Make it so that maybe someone like an Astralis might be screwed in BO1 phase. I think that's not unfair to say. So, yes, I agree that FlyQuest, it would have been good to see them look better, and I really wish that they had. But also at the same time, the Drillas series, Talon is a domestic series where I just think Azure calls circles around Dexter. I think Urcast had 0 prep going into that one. That was just a masterclass from Azure, just reminding us that, dude, this guy's going to be good. If Talon invests into this lineup a little bit more, I think that's a very promising lineup. But then the Drillas thing, it's just like, sure, could have been cleaner, but I'm not coming into this with the expectation of Atlanta. I'm coming into this with the expectation of, hey, if you can show us individual performances like this, you're never going to be favored to make top 16, but with the right draw, with the right seeding, with the right, things happening, a top 16 wouldn't be too surprising for this team.
Look, I mean, I think you do have to paint Drillas and Talon with the same brush, right? Like, if you're going to say Drillas is going to be a pug team, whatever, you look at when both these teams were put together, August 12th for Drillas, August 2nd for Talon. Both teams had the exact same lead into this RMR. And whether or not one team is going to exist after the RMR, in the case, obviously, we assume of Talon versus not for Drillas, I think that should be relatively irrelevant in what was performed, what was shown at the RMR, because they had the exact same lead time. They would have had the same prep. They both boot camped in Europe, etc., etc. So, end of the day, I think you sort of have to look at them in a similar way, even though the teams are structurally or long term, let's say, different kind of experiments or different kinds of beasts. They are, at least at that exact point at the Asia RMR, functionally the same. Group of 5 players that got put together in August, built for the RMR to see what they could do. Either way, we talk of FlyQuest a lot. I don't know how much there is really to touch on necessarily with Talon. I feel like we've kind of touched on that a little bit.
Can I touch on Talon? Because I want to talk about Talon just for
yeah, sure. I mean, I'll just say
seconds.
quickly. I don't know what I necessarily expected from this team. Am I impressed with the win against FlyQuest? Okay, that was nice, but apart from that, it didn't really feel like they really showed us a whole lot. I was actually maybe a little bit disappointed in the game against Lynn Vision in particular. I felt like they probably should have shown us a little bit more in that one. What's your take then, TeaTime?
Dude, this team is going to be good. Like, actually, I like Netic. I think Netic's pretty decent. I think with a little bit more time within the Talon bootcamp, I think Netic's going to be fine. I appreciate that. I actually think Azur's calling is like legitimately good, not just because the winner against FlyQuest. Overall, I like some of the rounds they were calling. It just felt like there was some poor execution. It's a team that's putting a lot of thought into their pistol round strategies as well. They're actually trying to go for these small upset techniques that I feel like FlyQuest doesn't, because FlyQuest is too busy. And Mongolz is also sometimes too busy thinking of, hey, we have to play like quote unquote real Counter-Strike. But Talon can also add in one more European player. I think they need to replace like one of Hazard or Addict. I think there's just no question about it. But MHL looks pretty good. He's always been pretty good. If Azur is calling decently, if Netic's got himself like a nice, comfortable level, you can add in one more European player. This could be a really fun team going into 2025, especially because they're not going to have the issues of like ranking points and everything, right? Because they're going to be able to play online European Counter-Strike. So I'm actually excited for what Talon's going to do ahead of us.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that this team will stick together in some significant way going into 2025. I think MHL probably didn't have the best accounting for himself at the Asia RMR. I think most people were sort of saying, yeah, MHL's going to come and he's going to absolutely dominate everyone. He's going to be the best AWPer at the event, maybe except for 9-10 potentially. And I think he had a decent map or two here and there, but it wasn't like a level of domination where I was like, yeah, this guy is fucking destroying everybody.
He's also a young kid with like, this is his first ever like big LAN tournament.
Yeah, but the reason I bring that up is because I think people just kind of look at it and go, European player in the Asia RMR, he's going to win. And that's what people were saying about Drillas as well. But it doesn't necessarily work like that. I think people do get a little bit in their own head about, EU CS, best CS, and there's no question about that. But you can't just sort of transpose that straight into an event and be like, they're going to dominate by virtue of being born in fucking Poland or Ukraine or wherever. They still need that time to kind of develop. So on one hand, I was kind of like thankful that was the case, because obviously, I don't want to see some person just come in and go, fuck yeah, I'm the best and EU's trash, and that actually be legitimately a storyline, because that would make me very disappointed for the sake of Asian CS. But on the other hand, I obviously want to see this Talon roster really perform quite well. So I think they've got a bit of a ways to go before they're going to be able to be a legitimate contender on the international stage. If you can't beat Lynn Vision, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're not there yet. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, that's kind of my thought, is like, I think they're just kind of mid, to be honest. Like, they want to be BO1 over FlyQuest, but if you can't beat like two of the Chinese teams, like you can't beat Rare Atom or Lynn Vision or look that competitive with them, then I just don't think you're going to do anything, to be honest. And I just think Talon is kind of mid. Like, I think they're, they have a European AWPer, and I think the coach is the biggest factor for them, really, honestly. The fact that they have a decent coach is like better than what they're going to have from any other team in this region, like and most of the other teams in this region, especially the Asia teams. Like Mara, I'm surprised Mara is such a good coach, because what he's done with Mongolz is incredible, but he has no like pedigree to back that. Whereas at least if you have like a European coach who can help you, then it makes a big difference. And obviously the Europe boot camp makes a big difference. But I don't know. I just don't think this team is gonna be that good. I think they're gonna be mid
like in the match against Rare Atom, it was pretty close. Now look at the scoreline. I mean, on Vertigo, Kaze got like a 1v5 and then also a 1v4 that he won out with like some insane thing, and that's obviously their mistake. Don't get me wrong, but like Vertigo, they would have won that if not for the Kaze insane clutches, or it would have at least been an overtime guaranteed. I think the scorelines are slightly deceiving. The Lynn Vision match, I agree. I was very disappointed by. I really thought they got destroyed over there. But while they're a mid team, and I agree with that assessment, I'm just saying I do think this is a one roster move away, like one good, well-placed spending roster move away from being like a legit, like I could see these guys sneaking into top 30. Like I could see that happen.
Get into top 30. I just don't think they have enough good players, bro. Like I think Nedic's good. I think MHL can be good.
Yeah, but I think you're both making the same point though. Like
that's what I'm saying. Like change one more European player.
Change one EU player and then they can make it. Whereas Pilski, you're like, they don't have enough good players. It's like you're kind of saying the same thing.
One player's got to do it though. Like they have 3 players who are.
Wait. I'm sorry. You're saying that a good IGL, a good piece, like rifling star piece, and an Opper who is again good at, from what you're saying, plus one good European rifler. Like that's 4 pieces. That's all you need for a top 30 team.
You reckon?
Wait, who's in the top 30 right now? Wait, let me see who's ranked 30. Bestia. You think they can't be better than Bestia?
Maybe. But at the same time, like the rank, like Bestia being the 30th best team is interesting in and of itself, right? Because it's like a team that peaks at RMR. Like they're playing like South American CS and then going to the
of course.
RMR.
But I'm just saying that. Like, I think you're being, you're taking my role and being a little bit harsh.
Pilski's always harsh.
I've never said anything good about Talon. Like I've watched all of their games and I've consistently said they're mid.
The thing I've realized about Pilski is he's a pessimist. I love all the
players. Legit, when they played in Oceania, we've casted all of these guys for years, and I love all these players, and I think Nedic's fucking amazing. But like, I don't believe these guys are going to do anything internationally. Like, I genuinely don't believe they're going to be able to do that.
Pilski he's been wounded by AUCS so many times that he doesn't get his expectations up so that he can be excited when someone does something of relevance. Otherwise, he can go, yeah, I expected that. I thought they would be shit. And then he doesn't get, it's like, don't get your hopes up, basically. So I think that's let
me paint a picture for you, okay? In that case, Annihilation of Talon, get to European.
I don't know, bro. Like, everyone says this, but like, I don't know.
Annihilation was so good on
People
Atox.
keep saying Annihilation to FlyQuest, whatever.
Look at
I'm like,
Pro League.
Can you pick up the guy who walked out of a fucking series on LAN?
But to be fair,
can.
look at what this team has been. Atox has been a joke. Dobu walked away from a potential Pro League spot. He completely destroyed his entire team.
Let's not get into that Atox thing. We'll get into that Atox thing later. We've got a little bit. We've got to talk about Atox later. We'll stay on the RMR. But
Annihilation, my goat.
If you're interested in the Atox thing, you can skip forward, or if you're watching this live, you can't skip forward. But if you're watching the VOD, you can skip forward. It'll be at the end.
Is this live streamed?
No, it's premiered on YouTube.
It's a live rerun.
It's a live rerun. Yeah, it's a live rerun.
Yeah. Okay.
You can get in the chat and comment and stuff while it's going TeaTime if you want. But look, Talon. Okay, again, we're all over the place with Talon, which I think is very much a metaphor for where they're at, where the team is at, what their result was here. It was neither good nor bad. They didn't look. We had them in our power rankings as will not impress. I don't think you can say they didn't impress, but I don't think you can say that they did impress either. It was kind of just like they're almost there, but they're not really. They beat FlyQuest, but it was a best of 1, and then they didn't do anything else. So it's like, okay, whatever. Let's forget about Talon for now. Who else haven't we talked about? We haven't really gone too in-depth on Lynn Vision. I want to quickly touch on Lynn Vision because this is the same conversation around maybe as what we had around FlyQuest, where it's like, does this team now, having not qualified for this major, exist in the same form over the next 6 months, or do they make changes? I would have to say, and going into it, we were saying, like, if they don't make the major, this team has to make changes. Like, there's no reason not to make changes to this team now. You've given a Fufu a bit of a runway, see what he can do. You've given Flying a bit of a runway. The team is not... It's not exciting at the moment. It's not like, I don't want to go ahead and say fucking Flying was dog shit. I think he actually had a pretty decent RMR, but something about this team is just not quite there. They don't quite have that exact same threat or presence that they used to, even with Zaka kind of going nuclear. And as we saw, when Zaka doesn't go nuclear, it's a disappointing looking team. So I think there has to be changes to Lynn Vision. What those changes end up being, I don't know. But I just think, what is the purpose of continuing with this roster at the moment?
I don't. There isn't one. There wasn't one. I don't even know why they had this roster for so long in the first place.
It was for the RMR. It was because they had to have something, right? Like they were forced to make changes.
They had a Fufu for so long, like for so long, bro. And they had Flying for so long, and he wasn't even that like amazing. I think Amelia is a good role player. I don't think you're gonna get a better IGL than Westmelon, so he has to stay on the team, even though. Sometimes Lynn Vision is just like, it's fucking crazy to me because sometimes they have like such good prep and such a good approach that they can actually challenge tier 1 teams, and sometimes they look fucking lost, like they don't even know how to play Counter-Strike, and it's like nothing in between. They're like all over the fucking shop with the calling, and Zaka is just needs to be saved. Like, please, someone save Zaka. Like, the dude is fucking insane. He legit might be the best player in China, and he's like just fucking on Lynn Vision, bro. Like, what is going on?
There's no saving Zaka though. There's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to go.
Best player in China is kind of insane. Like,
but you're the one that said you're the one that said Yami was the best player in Mongolia. So
I think
you can't give him shit.
I'm still so heartbroken about that. Oh, he's going to shit.
Yeah.
Hey, he tried his best. I watched him try to carry 2 coaches at the fucking like Challenger finals, and he was doing a good job, bro. Dude was literally like walking through smokes on H and getting 3Ks. He's like, I just got to put this old man on my back, bro.
Yeah. Look, I don't know. I know this sounds fucking stupid. This is going to sound fucking stupid.
I love it already.
But we'll get into the JamYoung thing as well. But I just had a thought of, what if we just put Westmelon into Tyloo, replace JamYoung, Westmelon IGLs, maybe you put Zaka in there as well instead of G.
I tweeted this exact thing.
Just saying. Anyway, let's talk about that later. Fuck Lynn Vision. Fuck Tyler. We still got a couple more of these RMR things to talk about. We're just down bad on, or Lynn Vision's down bad for us. I don't know. I don't like Lynn Vision at this point anymore, but whatever. Friendship ended with Lynn Vision. Now Rare Adam's my best friend. Kaze, 30-year-old talent. Did he top stat this RMR?
Yeah, I think so. But it was only 3 maps.
But it was only 3 maps. But mate, he's fucking 30 years old. And he qualified for his first major in 5 years. That's pretty cool.
He's got a 2v5 ace where the second player didn't do anything.
Honestly, Rare Adam, they did not have an impressive draw or an impressive run. But the fact that they've qualified for the Chinese major over Lynn Vision and Tyloo ahead of those guys, they beat Tyloo head-to-head in the China qualifier. Like, you can only beat the teams in front of you. Like, fucking respect. Like, you guys... You're literally in the retirement home and you're still fucking doing some stuff. So good job, guys. Like, they're probably going to go 3 in the next stage, but I respect that. I respect what they've done. Like, well done, guys. You made it to the China major.
I just think the biggest positive out of this is that there's going to be stickers in the game that say Child King. I'm sure people are going to get up to some really good stuff with that. So I just call that a win.
Yeah,
dude,
I like that.
You want to know something interesting? For the stickers, I'm pretty sure the most lucrative capsule will be the last place one, because you have MIBR, the Chinese team, which is Rare Adam, Imperial over there as well. So this is just going to be all of like the second language fans. Just all of them are going to be buying all these stickers. They're going to be in for some money over here. I can tell you that.
Yeah. But in saying that, I'm happy to see Rare Adam. Obviously, we predicted them collectively as our 3rd place team. They didn't manage to do it in 3rd place. They managed to do it in 2nd or 1st place, equal 1st, 2nd. I don't think anyone's really debating that they're any better than the Mongolz at this point. So let's just say 2nd seed out of the Asia RMR. Yeah, look, beating GR, beating Talon, it's kind of whatever, but it is what it is. You can only beat who's in front of you.
I'm happy this team is there. I just think this is the product of... As much as we might like minimize the route they've taken, like let's look at how many teams the old Rare Atom with JamYoung and Mercury was everyone like, Advent was supposed to be making it to our major, and they didn't because they messed up a route like this because they lost to like the Middle Eastern team with Loba and this and that.
Not even like GG how, bro. Like, come on.
Yeah, basically, right? Like, so it's just things like this where it's like, I'm really glad they got there because I think this is a very well scouted team. I think this is a team that actually... I mean, look, I don't know what Advent did to find Mercury and Mosaic. That's literally the best scouting maybe ever in Asia.
JamYoung as well.
Other than that,
I don't know how the fuck. Where does he find these kids, bro?
Like Advent, I'm pretty sure at this point Advent is just like giving birth to these children on the side. That's why he's bad at Counter-Strike.
No, there's no way they have his genetics. Like, there's zero chance.
Dude, listen, if you were in labor all the time because you had to birth the next Chinese top player, you do that kind of strike too. Okay? Like, just imagine Advent is just like, push, not B. Come on, guys.
Hell, bro.
But yeah, all I'm saying is I just think this is a really good example of Liang and Child King being on these up and coming teams for so long. Liang was a new happy. Child King. What team was Child King on? Was it IG?
Wings Up.
No, Wings Up. Sorry, yes,
Up,
Wings.
yeah.
Where he was obviously good as well. I'm just glad that these guys got their shot, and now they're going to be at the major. They're going to be able to get that experience. Plus, because they're at the major, they're also going to get to scrim European, like top European teams, while they're at the RMRs for like 2 weeks as well. While this team should not be making it to top 16, I would be surprised if they're 0-3. Because let's be honest, guys, those America's teams are dog shit.
Maybe. We'll see. I don't know. I'll probably do an opening stage pick'ems video and put all of the Asia teams as the not 0 and 3 just because that's what I do. But I don't know if I necessarily believe that. I'll have to think about it a little bit more. Is there anything to say about Drillas? Or should we just talk about Mongolz? Because...
Can we shit on Drillas a little bit, please?
Go for it.
You want to shit on them? I mean, yeah.
You go for it first. You can be the nice one.
I mean, they're a European team at the Asia RMR, and they almost qualified, which is probably what they should have done. And they had to play the toughest teams there, and they almost qualified. So, like,
I mean, they took a map off Mongolz. They took a map off FlyQuest.
Yeah.
Like,
at the end of the day, they looked like one of the top teams at the event, and they were one of the top teams at the event because they had superior talent to what the Asia teams have, which is what the fucking European RMR is. So I think at the end of the day, they should never have been at the Asia RMR, and they were probably good enough to qualify. And I reckon if you, like I said before, if you put Drillas against Rare Atom 10 series in a row, I think Drillas wins more series than Rare Atom wins, and they probably should have qualified. But
I do feel like there was maybe a little bit of divine intervention to prevent Drillas from qualifying to the major through
I think
Asia.
so, bro.
Like the planets aligned to stop them. They had to play against Mongolz in the upper bracket. They had to play against FlyQuest in the lower bracket. And then in overtime, God decided, he was like, Faceit, you are my avatar. And you're going to swing ramp. You're going to be spraying down ramp, and I'm going to pull one of these bullets that doesn't look like it's going to go up here, but I'm going to pull this bullet right up here, and it's going to land right in this guy's head on top of the box to start off that 3K that basically kept FlyQuest alive in that OT.
Dude, even that Dexter double kill when he's pushing into ramp and 3 people come out of the smoke and he just accidentally gets a headshot on the player coming forward.
There was seriously some moments where the universe did not want Drillas to qualify.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
All I just want to bring up at this point is it's so funny that and I didn't do this before because obviously I was working the event and didn't want to do it while I'm working the event. But the HLTV interview for OniPixel is the headline reads, I wanted to support some guys who otherwise wouldn't have had the chance to go to a major. Brother, Boro was at a quarterfinal. Scenari made it to 3 majors. Haji's been at more RMRs and there have been good Chinese players. What are you talking about?
These poor European souls. When will someone give them a chance?
How will they survive after they made the quarterfinals and 3 majors? It's just so annoying. And then after that, by the way, all of the fans who've been going out here and just being like, oh my God, no, but it's a rules problem. It's okay. Guys, this is not how it works. You can discuss morality without law. We are all Counter-Strike's supposed to be the older audience. Listen, Jordan, you tell me this right now. If I'm in the state of California, and I looked this up because I did my research for this one. If I'm in the state of California, right? If I'm in the state of California and I have a wife who is pregnant,
16 years old or something. Is this what it is? Is this
no. I'm not.
No, I would have expected that from you, to be quite honest.
No, that's not what I said. Pakistan.
You come up with some insane
California.
shit, bro.
I would have said Pakistan, not California.
All right, continue.
She's pregnant. She's terminally ill. She has my child at her. Everything. We've had a really loving relationship. She's done everything she can for me. She's always supported me in my casting dream. Yada yada yada. All this stuff, right? And in the middle of all of this, I'm like, you know what? But that being said, I'm not getting any sex and I don't like this. So I'm going to cheat on this woman. Now, that's legal. You are allowed to do that. That will probably make you feel good. But that's a wrong thing to do. You're a piece of shit for that.
I agree.
Just because rules don't Like,
why is being in California relevant?
My
there?
point, because
it's
legal
that analogy
there.
anywhere.
No. There's a lot of places where infidelity is legal. Like,
right.
You have to keep this in mind. I'm being legally accurate over here.
Okay.
Right. So the point is, it is wrong. It is wrong to do that. In the same way, it was wrong to do what Drillas did. Just because the rules allow it doesn't mean that it's not morally bankrupt, and you shouldn't be absolutely ostracizing the people who are engaging in something like this. I think it's ridiculous. So yeah, just as a reminder, screw the fans of Drillas. I don't like what they did, and I don't like the justification. But that being said, I'm really happy that we got some fun storylines in the Asia's RMR. We got divine intervention. God decided to tune in on Twitch as well, and that was very nice to see.
Yeah, God reached down and he said, wow, this somebody guy has never done anything stupid in his career. Let's just drag him straight through the upper bracket. He's
basically
the chosen one.
And listen, if God was ever going to intervene, it would be through the Middle East. Let's be honest.
Fair enough. Yeah, scooting right by that one. Look, I don't know. I mean, the thing is with Drillas, I think they were just in the right place at the right time. You know what I mean? Like, could you say that anybody else would have made a different decision than what they did? I don't think so necessarily. Like, anybody else would have done the same thing.
I don't have a problem with it that much. Like, as much as some people, like some people are like hate burnering it a little bit, but like at the same time, you like the justifying it. Some of the justifications for it are like a bit stupid. It's like I don't necessarily like. It's not going to end my life. Like I'm not so upset that I like can't function that they're in the RMR. You know, it's just like it is what it is. But at the same time, it's like, well, I'm never going to support this team. If they qualify, I'm going to be like, well, that fucking sucks. You know, like, and I'm glad they didn't qualify. Like, I'm genuinely glad they didn't qualify. I'm not glad that Rare Adam basically just like connected to the server to qualify to the major, but it's better than Drillas qualifying, so I'll take it.
Yep, that's more or less where I'm at as well. Like, I would have been disappointed, I guess, to see them qual, but my life would have gone on. I'd have been like, fair enough, off we go. And just to wrap it up, let's talk Mongolz. I don't think there's really much to say here, to be honest. Like,
woo,
they won. They did it good. Mongolz qualified. They lost the map to Drillas, but it kind of looked like they didn't have their monitors on for that map, and then they turned their monitors on for the rest of the series.
That's the thing I love about the Mongolz, though, that like no other Asia team has ever been able to do. It's like whenever they fucking lose a map or they go into a lower bracket or something, they just like, they switch on and they're like, we're going to fist these cunts. And they just come into the next map and they absolutely dome them. Like, I fucking love Mongolz for that.
Even every time they're down and out, they almost domed them.
Yeah.
Like they went from 10-2 to 13-11.
Yeah. Honestly, like, whenever an OS team loses a map that they shouldn't, or like old school Renegades, they would just get ecoed once. I'd be like, all right, this series is over. I'll just turn the stream off, like legit. Whereas Mongolz, like, the bounce back is incredible to watch every time.
All right. Well, I think that's the RMR conversation done and dusted. So what I want to do here is talk about Train, one of the changes to the game that may be coming in 2025. I know we've got a lot of viewers that... honestly, I'm surprised with the amount of people that now watch Geographically Challenged that maybe aren't like bona fide hardcore CS fans. So this is kind of where this is targeted. It's not targeted for the super hardcore fans. It's more or less just to have a bit of a conversation around what's happening on Train that's new. So I don't know how much you guys have actually played of new Train. I had a little bit of time. I played 2 games of Train. It's pretty wild. Have you even seen any of the changes yet, Pilski?
Yeah, I've seen all the changes. And Train used to be like
this
the
is
map
crazy.
that pretty much every team that I would play in would pick. Like, I love Train. Train is because back in the day, it'd be like Dust 2 Mirage. Like all the Pug teams would all be like spamming Dust 2 Mirage. And I'd be like, you can't veto every tactical map. You can't veto Nuke and Train. I'm going to pick one of these motherfuckers, or I'm going to pick Overpass. So picking Train back in the day was amazing. Made me feel real nice.
Yeah, I'm kind of keen to see Train in the pool. I know that people have issues with the way that it's playing at the moment.
This whole backholes area, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah, this is crazy. Also, there's like this really wild angle. I don't know if you guys have seen this one. Oop.
Do pause for a second, because otherwise it's hard to see.
Oh wait, did they change it?
They probably removed it.
There used to you used to be able to look through here. It used to be way bigger. I think they might have changed that.
They probably removed it, yeah.
Yeah, that's different to when I last played. They used to be able to see through there. But yeah, this whole backhauls area is completely different. Obviously, Ivy, more or less the same. Some changes, I guess, in terms of just like little cutouts and stuff. But The whole map is just completely different. Like when I got onto the map, like when I first spawned on the map, I was here in CT spawn. I was like, it looks pretty similar. And then you walk out on B and you see like this giant thing, and you go, what is that? Obviously, when you play on T side, I got lost. I was looking for SL or Pop Dog as the internationals call it.
I
was looking for Pop Dog. I was like, where's Pop Dog? So then I went down here and I was like, oh, it must be down here. And I was like, oh no, that's the ramp into the site. And then you realize that there's a whole giant hallway here, which is kind of like, first of all, I'm not such a fan of how big this hallway is. I feel like maybe you can do something with like a staircase here. I don't know. I feel like this is just another massively long angle that's going to be really awkward to deal with. But I don't know. I personally am a little bit sad that SL doesn't exist anymore. Like I feel like the ladder interaction that you used to have on this map was like actually one of the sort of defining traits of the map. And for that to not exist, it's kind of like,
think of all the epic highlights as well of like really sharp riflers multi-fragging at SL. Like those were always juicy. Like the vertical raw adjustments.
Remember the Benkai highlight? Do you remember the Benkai highlight where he threw a Molotov through the window and then like jumped down into SL and like burned himself or something? I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was great.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I'm a bit sad about that change. I don't know how most people feel about that one, but I think I'm a bit sad that SL doesn't exist in the same way as it did anymore.
I am mostly sad about I obviously haven't had a chance to play it at all, so I don't really know that much. The two things that I'm kind of sad about is three actually. One, I think the A site has become too open, which I don't know. Maybe that'll play well. That's not the issue, but my issue is always that it was really fun to see good T side players like navigate through a lot of trains and like figure out angles, and it also meant that there was a million angles to watch, right? Like, so the CTs had so many places where you could be killed from, but that also made it so good T side performances were so much fun. And I know that one of the reasons why is because smokes are more powerful, so that's also why you have to have less trains over here. But it does feel like sort of the identity of the A site is a little bit going to be a bit different. I don't know how it'll play out. Maybe it'll be similar, but my knee-jerk reaction is I don't like that. I would like there to be more cluttering. I think I would like there to be more like navigation within the A site rather than the maze and Ivy, which is sort of where they've pushed navigation back out to. Then even, the Pop Dog thing, I agree with you. The good thing about Pop Dog, though, is that it means it's more viable for CT sides to be able to actually flank. Because before, like, it was almost impossible to actually, like, go forward up through the ladder, then come in behind. Like, it was really hard. So at least there's better flanking potential, but I do agree that I think it would be nicer to have slightly shorter ramp. But again, I don't know how that'll like sort of play out. The last thing, I don't like the B catwalk changes. I like the extra box in there that makes it so you can't, like, the double hopping isn't as strong. And I know we've been moving away from double hopping in MR12 anyway, but I just think this is such an iconic part of this map. And I wish that we had more things like, maps where double hopping is viable, or maps where double hopping might even be necessary, where it would be nice to see drastic stylistic differences on the CT side that are implemented because of how maps are changing. And it does feel like this is a little bit more of a, unification into the rest of the map pool, which is what we have seen a lot of happening, where, sure, for example, Noob and Ancient, to me, they're both very different maps, but they're also both kind of similar in a lot of ways, in the sense that I can sort of see execute heavy teams doing well on both. I can see, defaulting teams doing well on both. It's not like old school train was like, hey, if you don't have some sick executes, and if you don't have like some really good, perfectly timed flashes or insane extremity players, you're not going to win on this T side. And we are sort of going away from maps that need specialized players a little bit, and I'm slightly disappointed about that.
Does it look like Thomas the Tank Engine to anybody?
It does.
A little bit.
I feel like that might be like a little bit of a secret, I don't know, Easter egg type thing. Yeah, I don't know. Like I haven't played enough, and honestly, I'm not knowledgeable enough to really tell you how the map is going to play and how it's going to be good or bad in pro play. But I like there's a couple of little things like this little, because obviously they've turned this into stairs, so you can't flash up there if you are just throwing it at the stairs. They've got this little wood thing, So yeah. I think they're like they are kind of keeping in mind a lot of the aspects of the game that they want to exist, and they're obviously changing a lot of things that they don't like about the map, I guess. I was listening to Yanko on Talking Counter, and I kind of agree with his take that why does the map need to be changed when you're adding in all of these new maps like Ancient, like Anubis? Why do we have to take a map and change it up so drastically, particularly in the environment that Counter-Strike is in nowadays, where it's such a sort of T-sided environment? Why are we taking one of the more CT-sided maps and changing it to be more T-sided? At least that's the way that things have trended so far with the timings and stuff like that on the map. I mean, you trying to hold A when people are just coming out of A main is kind of difficult because it takes you so long to get there, and this train kind of prevents you from throwing a lot of the util that you would want. You can't just boom and then molly off main. You need to get a lot further around and stuff like that. So I don't know how much all that's going to change. Obviously, as good players actually take a little bit more time to sort of figure out util and stuff like that. But I don't know. Like I don't hate the change necessarily, but I do kind of agree with the idea that why are you having to change the map? Like, I liked Train as it was. I always enjoyed watching and casting Train. It was one of my more the maps that I enjoyed casting a lot more. And to sort of see it changing, I think is it's fun because you get to sort of experience the changes and whatnot. But you do lose a little bit of something when the maps change as drastically as this one has. Like, going to some of the map changes, like Inferno and Dust 2, I feel like didn't change as much. But when you look at this new Train, it is a completely different map. Like changing Heaven, changing SL, changing B Catwalk, changing the position of the trains on the site. Like there's no way this plays even remotely the same as what it used to. So there's that.
To be fair, I think Valve is going to make a lot of changes. I mean, let's not forget Inferno was very different in CS2 in the beginning. Remember when everyone was like, "Oh my god, this sucks. There's so many extra roofs. It's so much less open. This is terrible." And it's still not the best map in my opinion. Like I think old Inferno was still a bit better, but at the same time, it's pretty good where it is now, where it has gone back to a little bit more of sort of yield faithful. And that is what I am looking forward to first, which is the first wave of changes before Train is implemented. Then I'm more interested in it.
Yeah, it's going to go through more iterations, but I agree. I don't like a homogenous map pool, and that's what I used to like about CS, and especially when it came out, is like you had some maps that had a very clear identity, and it feels like this is trying to make everything a bit more like beginner friendly, which is not like what CS is about. Like that's the thing I like about Valorant's map design, not conceptually, conceptually, not the sites and shit, because some of the sites are a fucking mess, and like some of the small things in the maps are a mess. But I feel like conceptually in Valorant, they like try to make a map that's like, whoa, this crazy idea, like fucking Fracture or something with like zip lines in the middle of the map, or like, oh, fucking let's do 3 bomb sites or something, Whereas like in CS, Train, I mean, honestly, towards the end of the map and the new iterations was way less CT-sided than what it was at the start. And the same thing can be said for Nuke. Like, the game has shifted to be way more T-sided than it was when CSGO came out. But I just think, like I said before, I like that there's some maps in the pool that you need to be tactical, you need to be positional, you need to be execute heavy. And then there's some maps where it's like, I have no fucking brain, and all I do is play aim bots all day, and I'm insane at the game, and I could just pick Mirage, and that's fine. I like that there's different maps that play to different kind of play styles and different players' strengths, rather than just making everything a blob.
Yep. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, final thoughts. I like the raindrops. I think the raindrops look really good.
Yeah, but what's your FPS say about them, bro?
Well, my FPS right now is 180, 190, 200 sometimes. I don't have the greatest PC, so I don't know. That's irrelevant, really, at this point, as far as I'm concerned. People are going to complain and bitch and moan and whatever, but I don't know. I think it is what it is. I would say, if nothing else, I hope that we get to see Train in the map pool at some point, because I'm just at that point where I'm like, I've seen enough from Vertigo, I've seen enough from Inferno. For me in particular, I'm really bored of Inferno. So I would like to see a change. And if that's Train coming in, so be it. I like the change. I like to see the map pool shaking up a little bit. But anyway, let's move on from Train and talk a bit more about Asian CS again. JamYoung. Mr. JamYoung looks like he's moving over to Valorant, which is probably the worst news we could have possibly had at the end of 2024, because we were very excited about Tyloo, the current iteration of Tyloo. They did miss out on the major, and that was a bit disappointing. And now it seems like it's going to get even more disappointing, because we're not even going to get to see really what this Tyloo roster would be able to achieve going into 2025. Because if JamYoung moves over to Valorant, which the rumor says he is, and it seems to be quite a credible rumor as well.
Yeah, Tanmei's record as a journalist is very good.
Yeah, that plus also, from my understanding, ZDR is practicing with Tyloo already. So, that's just another tick in the book as far as
ZDR, not
ZDR.
Remember the guy who played like 6 months ago?
Please make it stop.
So
I know.
So first of all, disappointing that JamYoung's moving over to Valorant potentially, or more than likely, it seems like. Would that have been the case had they qualified to the major? I think absolutely not. So we can...
I think he would have still moved on to Valorant.
Not yet, not at this point though. Like if he was going to play the major right now, there's no way he's moving to Valorant.
I think he's still I think he ends the major and he goes to Valorant. Dude, if he's going to EDG, who just won the world championship.
That may be true, but he would have surely at least played out the major.
Yeah, of course. I mean, he's still Valorant season doesn't start till like January or February or whatever it does anyway, right? So because that game doesn't exist for 4 months a year, so yeah.
Yeah, so there's that disappointment, but also then the disappointment of, well, first of all, disappointing that we lose JamYoung, who was perhaps one of the most exciting talents coming out of China in the last 5 years, let's say. And second, what this now means for Tyloo going into 2025. Are they going to be a bad team? I don't think so. I still think you've got enough of a core there, especially if Mosey's calling. Apparently that's the case. You are trading now JamYoung out for ZDR. You've still got a decent core roster of players there, a good enough core roster of players that I think they'll probably still be the best team in China, quite frankly. But, it's just a bit sad that things have gone this way, and, another one bites the dust, I guess. What more is there to really say?
Pick up Amelia. Or someone, someone for JamYoung. You don't want Amelia?
No, I don't want Amelia. I'm fine with Zacher. I think Zacher's a good rifler. If you put him on the rifles, so actually he fulfills a lot of the JamYoung goals. But I don't care about the Tyloo discussion that much, to be honest. I think it's more about this is absolutely heartbreaking to me because JamYoung, Jordan, I don't know if you remember this because you and Mac got the short end of the stick on some of the tech timeouts at Mesa's RMR. But when we were in Mongolia, I got a chance to talk to a lot of the Mongolian players who were talent because obviously they didn't make it to the RMR. Talking to them just confirmed everything. Everyone in Asia, when they're playing against JamYoung, it didn't matter who you are. Even if you're Blitz, especially back in that time, maybe not as much now. If you're playing against JamYoung was the fucking Terminator. Right? Every single clutch, you were oh, it's a 1v2. He could do this. Even if he's saving on the other side, you're pissing your pants thinking that, oh, he might be coming in for this one. If it's overpass, he's got this crazy history of being good on it. He was such an iconic sprayer as well, right? Where in Asia, I think a lot of the aim style has we don't have players with iconic aim styles, to be honest. Maybe I think of, Senzu can have some one day, Techno can have entries here and there, but really for me, the big player has always been JamYoung, where it's oh, dude, give this guy an M4A4. He's got that howl, he's got everything. I have a mythology of JamYoung in my mind. And who can I say that about in Asia who isn't now on Mongolz? To think that this guy who was always on the come up, who was always on the cusp of making majors, he hasn't even played that many majors. He hasn't made them. Most of the time, Advin's teams choked it out. But this guy, despite everything, because whenever they went internationally to a pro league, anything like that, he'd perform so well. He was what Bintet ended up becoming in his growth as well. JamYoung felt like he was going to be the next icon out of the Asian scene until Mongolz took over. And I can see why he's leaving. I get it, man. He's just not making the majors. It's never happening for him. He's not making it, and now he's getting a chance to play on from what I understand. I don't know much about Valorant, Pilski. I'm sure you can tell me more about this than I know. From what I understand, is a contender for #1 team in the world. Of course he's going to take that, man. I get it. But I am going to miss that guy so much, dude. He was so good.
Oh, so he's going on to EDG, you said?
Yeah, I think it's rumored EDG.
I'm surprised that they would even take that kind of a risk. JamYoung's good and everything, but I'm surprised. Yeah, I'm really sad that he's leaving CS. I don't think he's been as good as he was on that Vici team, on this current Tyloo team, to be honest. And part of that might be taking on some IGLing and then maybe not doing as much IGLing. At times, he was definitely the best player in Asia, really, really insane player. So it's sad that he's not playing in CS anymore. At the same time, Valorant presents so many more opportunities to Chinese players. So it's really not that surprising to see players go over from CS to Valorant. At the end of the day, the support for the Asia region is so much more in Valorant, and it's huge in China. I think, yeah, like I said, that's huge.
I was wrong about the EDG thing. I double checked that. That's not in the report.
There's
that just
no way he would go. There's no way EDG would take that risk, because the thing is, like, I like JamYoung and I think he's really good, but I've already seen a bunch of CS players transition to Valorant, and it's not like when the game came out. When the game came out and you're a CS player transitioning to Valorant, you were like, this guy's going to dominate. Like, you know, he's going to be playing against Overwatch and like Fortnite and Apex Legends players. Like, they have no fucking idea what they're doing. It's not like that anymore. Like, in current day Valorant, even if you're the best player in CS, like if Bentet went and started playing bloody Valorant, or Zion went and started playing Valorant when they were really good, like, it really wouldn't, like, there's no guarantee they would be good. And I think you even see like Slowly, for example, playing CS, playing Valorant. You've seen Viva playing Valorant. Like, there's a bunch of players who, Martin was like a runner-up in the Ascension, who was kind of like an average CS player, who's pretty average in Valorant as well. Like, I don't think he's even going to be that good in Valorant. I think he's just going to be mid, and then it's going to take like a long time for him to get like pretty good at Valorant, most likely, because the Chinese scene is pretty competitive. Like, there's a lot of good teams, and my guess would be he might not even go on a good team, probably. Like, it might not even be on a top 3 team.
Could he not just be making the direct? Doesn't Tai Lu have a Valorant team? Am I wrong?
They do have a Valorant team, and Slowly, I think, plays for their Valorant team. But
yeah.
I've literally like practiced against their Valorant team when we like boot camped in Shanghai, and their Valorant team is like terrible. Like, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, but I don't think some of these Chinese franchise teams are very good at all. Like, some of them are good. FPX, like EDG, maybe like Trace or Billy, like when they're playing good and when they've got their shit together, are like really good teams. But some of the teams that are like in the bottom of Chinese franchising, or like the middle to the bottom of Chinese franchising, are not good teams at all. Like, they're really mid as fuck. So, and I really wouldn't be surprised if JamYoung's going to like one of those teams, to be honest.
Yeah, which is disappointing, because obviously in CS, at least as far as we're concerned, they're the best Chinese team, at least. That doesn't necessarily mean much on the global stage, but it's something.
It's also disappointing just because I do think that this was supposed to be sort of the golden age of Asia being ushered in from the Chinese major and everything. Exactly. And like, you know, there's so many hopes pinned onto this. And obviously there's question marks about how the Valve ranking will work. But to be honest, I think those will be figured out over time. It just sucks, man. I feel bad.
I just think it hasn't gone that way at all, though. Like, I just think with all of the issues with like invites, like Talon, Lynn Vision getting the invite, and then like,
I mean, they made the major last time. I don't think that's an issue.
I know, but like, I'm just saying, like, the way that the qualification system works and the best of ones and all of this shit just doesn't create an environment where you get like the best teams being rewarded. Honestly,
I don't agree with you at all on this, because look, at the end of the day, look at what they had to do to qualify for the RMR. They had to beat Rare Atom. They didn't. Fine, like, you lose a qualifier, you could have made the major last time, you didn't. I don't even agree with you guys on like the direction of this team. I think this team is so poorly put together. People are just excited because no more Advent. This team didn't have proper leadership structure. G is incredibly overrated because for some reason people are retconning history as if G was good on Lynn Vision when he was just this really variable wild card player, and they just wanted to replace Kaze with anyone. This wasn't a well put together team. And if you look over towards their chances to qualify, this was one of the most robust abilities to qualify where you could have had. You lost to Rare Atom in a BO3. You didn't make it there. Too bad. I'm sorry. That just sucks. Fine. But from next year, the rumors are there's going to be 16 teams for the Asian qualifier. If that's going to be the case, you probably would have made it there as well. Even otherwise, I mean, look at the RMR itself. You would have had a chance to come through the lower bracket. Otherwise, you would have been in, Rare Atom's position. But sure, there's one BO1. There's not that many BO1s, basically. It's mostly like BO3, so you're playing out. The one BO1 doesn't mess things up that much. It's 3 teams going out of 8. Like this is pretty fair.
I don't think that's true, though. You play a BO1, it changes your bracket draw completely.
It changes your bracket draw, but at the same time, you're assuming that, listen, you're assuming Mongolz is going through. If Mongolz loses their BO1, that's obviously an entirely different thing. But Mongolz, you're assuming, is going to go through on their side because they're going to get the easiest seed to go up against as well. After that, anyone in this tournament is fair game for Tyloo if they're here. Tyloo should be fair game for Drillas, for FlyQuest, for pretty much anyone. Like I don't agree with this. I think
Tyloo qualifying through the Asia RMR. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
They didn't even make the Asia RMR. Why?
But that's because you lose a BO3. It's not like you're losing.
They lost the BO3 online to Rare Atom.
Well, if you're saying that we just shouldn't have online qualifiers at all,
no, you shouldn't. They should have been online qualifiers.
Why not?
Because it's the most important tournament. There's like one or two of them a year.
No, but then wait, if you're making it fully invite, no, the RMRs are offline. Like that's the biggest change, right? So the RMRs are offline. Why shouldn't there be online qualifiers for the RMR? I agree there shouldn't be open qualifiers, but what, you want everything to be offline leading into RMR?
Qualifiers should be LAN for sure.
Okay, I mean, no one has that kind of money.
I know, but like,
and China actually probably does for what it's worth.
China, fair enough. China probably could do that, but also at the same time, I'm just saying, like, even if the close qualify, like, I think that's unreasonable. I think it's incredibly unreasonable to say, hey, you know what? Last RMR you didn't make it to the major. This time you're going to get an offline closed qualifiers to make it to the RMR.
I think it's a moot point anyway because Lynn Vision should not have been invited to the fucking RMR. That's all I'm going to say. Like, if it was 2 qualification spots for China and they lost to both Lynn Vision and Rare Atom, there'd be no discussion. But the fact that Lynn Vision gets invited and we knew that they were not that good is the actual issue. So that's my problem. But anyway, look, you guys. I think we're kind of going around in circles here. At the end of the day, my takeaway with this Tyloo, with this JamYoung change, with this Tyloo change, whatever, if it ends up happening, it's even less to me about like what happens to Tyloo, what happens to JamYoung. It's more about my vibe on Asian CS, because right now I had the feeling in 2024 Asian CS was going back up. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, we're actually starting to get out of the woods. Like for years, it had felt like Asia CS was completely fucking forgotten, ignored. Nobody gave a shit. And you could say that's still the case in 2024 and going into 2025. It's probably still the case as well. However, that narrative is changing somewhat. And I don't want to toot my own horn, but getting 10,000 viewers on an Asia CS podcast, I think is indicative of people at least giving somewhat more of a shit than they did 3 years ago or 4 years ago. I don't know how long we've been doing this podcast, but when we did it, we were getting like 500 views on these. You know, no one actually gave a shit. Now we're getting, some of these episodes getting 10, 20,000 views. People are actually watching. And yes, that may be because we're making better, we're more interesting, we're talking better, the brand is a bit bigger, whatever. But I actually just think it's down to the fact that people are more interested in Asia CS. There is more relevant Asia CS going on. And the scene itself is just growing, right? The rising tide lifts all boats, whatever. Geographically Challenged as a podcast is just one of those boats. So I felt that 2024 has been really good for Asia CS, and I had this feeling that 2025 is going to also be quite good, although we don't know how things are going to go with this whole new system that's being put into place. But, you know, this kind of news still shows me that we're not really out of the woods just yet, because if someone from China, which is one of the 2 regions specifically in Asia that is doing well, China and Mongolia, can still be baited over to Valorant, and we don't know whether he's going to a good team, a bad team, a mid team, whatever, that still indicates that there is some work to be done when it comes to CS in Asia in terms of being a relevant career pathway for these guys, or a better career pathway than the alternatives.
I don't think CS can compete with Valorant in Asia, full stop. In China or elsewhere, it can't compete with
it doesn't
Valorant.
Need to, though. Like, I don't think it needs to in that sense. I think it needs to just offer enough for the people who are passionate about CS, who are CS players that want to play CS, to be able to do it viably. And not go, oh, I am being tempted by what is over the other side. I don't think it does,
though. Like, look at the leagues that Tyloo and these teams play in. Like, they play in ESL Challenger League, and then
but I think it was changing. It was going in the right direction. Do you know what I mean? Like,
all 8 teams boot camp for Europe. All 8 teams at this RMR boot camped in Europe before the RMR.
It's not like it was
insane.
where. It's not like it was where in 2018, 2019, we had ESL Pro League Asia, we had all these extreme signs and this and that, and then all of that in 2020 was gone. Like, there was nothing. There was fuck all, basically. And that's why teams like Paper X made the change and what now. Now you have, there's not a lot, but we're seeing things like Extremes Land, we're seeing Mesa Nomadic Masters, Sky Sports, we're seeing, and look, there's issues with all of those, let's be real. But it's better than what it was, which was nothing. Like we're going in this direction rather than in this direction. And even if it's only marginally going positive, it's still going positive, which I think has enough for players to look at and say there is something that we can hope to play towards in the future. And if I'm a 23-year-old kid, but JamYoung's 23, I expect to have another 7 potential years, maybe, let's say, in CS. In 5 years, where could Asia CS be, for example? That's what you need, that mental ability, even if it's not there right now, to be able to say, in 5 years' time, if I dedicate to this game and to this title, maybe there's something for me to actually play towards.
There's also something to keep in mind, which is that, well, first of all, I think Pilski's right that we can't compete with Valorant as far as money is concerned, right? But also at the same time, it's not about money. It's about, hey, can we get a core group of players playing a quote-unquote tier 2 regional game because they love the game enough and they can make some money off of it. And some money isn't, it's like all right money, right? Like maybe if you make the major, you make pretty good money with the stickers, but most of the time it's all right and you're doing all right. But I think one thing to keep in mind for JamYoung leaving is that this is also a player who's, to him, he's probably tried everything, right? Like he's tried with Advent for ages. Now he's tried with the Chinese super team. He's tried so much. And in my opinion, a lot of those were bad decisions. I think he's really mismanaged his career. I don't know what the contract situation might be like because of which it might have happened. But yeah, that being said, he probably also feels bitter that, hey, I'm just not making it to a major, right? And maybe Valorant is greener pastures.
This is the thing, though. Like this is the argument that I'm trying to make. You need a player like that, like a player like let's look at Zyne, right? Zyne very obviously could have been in a very good Valorant team back in the day.
He had offers.
Okay. But he stayed with CS. Sure. And we can all look at that and say that was a dumb as fuck decision, you know? Bro's got fucking rocks in his head. But he stayed with CS. You want that player who is so dedicated to CS to be able to actually reliably be able to make a living off of CS and say, you know, while this may not have been the best career choice in terms of financial gain and prestige and whatever, I can actually I love this game. I can reasonably make this one work. That's all it needs to be. Okay, which at the moment is not, unless you're a Mongolz, and to be fair, they're fucking prodigal. Like they are doing things that nobody else has ever done from Asia. You know, you need to be a team like Talon, you need to be a team like FlyQuest, you need to be a team like Rare Atom that can go, yeah, we're actually making enough money where we love this game, we're gonna stay. That's all it needs to be. And for someone like JamYoung to still be baited over to Valorant, we're not there yet.
Of course, that's true, and it sucks, and I am really heartbroken about it. But also, I don't think this is as doom and gloom as anything else, because this is a particularly unique case of a player who has reason to be jaded, right? Like compared to a lot of these other guys, where you're talking about Zyne. Zyne wasn't necessarily playing. Bro. No, Zyne's not been playing on the number 1 seeded team and not making it ever, right? Like Zyne hasn't had the same kind of heartbreak. He's never had the same kind of hope to actually come forward outside.
I mean, he was in MVP PK. Like that team was.
That's why I said leaving the COVID era. No, that's why I said leaving the COVID era.
Yeah.
Look, there's no argument about that. Things were better before COVID. Like, you know, I don't think anyone is debating that. But that being said, I mean, looking over towards how things are, I think people underestimate what a big deal it is that all of the teams at the RMR had the financial ability because of the organizational backing to boot camp in Europe, pretty much, right? All of the teams of the RMR have at some point played like CCT events in Europe, right? Where you're playing these 50K, maybe 100K invitationals if you're going to one of the relog events and everything, right? Like there's enough Counter-Strike accessible to these guys. And these organizations are big enough where I do still think we're going in a pretty good direction. I think the JamYoung thing is just a bit of a rude awakening of, hey, yo, chill out. You're not there yet. But I don't think that we can still really challenge the fact that we are getting more orgs. The fact that Australia has 2 organizations representing it, which have like millions of dollars behind them, Talon and FlyQuest, I think that speaks volumes. Alter Ego coming in with some of the mobile esports side of things as well. This is not the worst. I mean, Mongolia's got 3 organizations, including the Mongolz, who have the money to be able to send their teams to boot camp in Europe, right? You're looking at IHC, you're looking at Atox, Mongolz. Obviously, once upon a time, D13 did it a long time ago as well. So if all of these sub-regions in Asia have the money for boot camping, where I know the Middle East has it because it's Saudi organizations, I know East Asia, with GR has it, then you're looking at Mongolia has like 3 teams. China probably has about 4 teams that can do it as well. This is still a pretty good ecosystem if you have like 15 teams overall with organizations and salaries and the ability to go boot camp in a better place and everything. Is it Valorant? Of course not. It's not going to compete with Valorant, but it's still a very good direction to be going in. When you also add in local tournament operators are increasing. There's supposed to be that God, what's its name? There's that Asian esports league that's going to be started.
Oh,
with
Hero Esports, which is, are you talking about Asia Cyber League or something like that? Asia Champions League?
the one that's connected to the Saudi,
from China, right?
PIF. Yeah.
This is if you know VSPO.
Yeah.
They're rebranding to Hero Esports, and they're launching I think it's Asia Champions League. It's ACL.
Whatever it is.
Yeah. That may not necessarily involve CS. I don't know, by the way, but
I don't know either. I'm assuming it does because they're also owned by Saudi, and then ESL is owned by Saudi, and ESL has said there's going to be more stuff in China next year. So my point is there are plenty of points of optimism. It's just this is a reminder we're not there.
Yeah.
Hopefully we will be, but we aren't.
If it keeps going, if we see the growth from 2024 or 5 years in a row, Asian CS is back in a good spot. Let's be real.
It's look, if we this growth, it's going to be a proper America's contending region.
I think it just depends. Like, I think both Valorant and CS is cooked in different ways. Like, if JamYoung goes on a franchise like Chinese Valorant team, then he's probably chilling. But like, if you're playing in like a tier 2 team or something, then you're kind of trolling leaving Tyloo. It just really depends on the situation.
All of esports is cooked in some way, shape, or form. So it is what it is.
It is a passion industry.
Yeah, we should move on. We're waffling about that. Probably people are like, man, these guys just. They want to get deep into the discussion this episode. That's always what happens, by the way. This is TeaTime's fault because
I know
goes down the rabbit hole. So blame TeaTime or thank TeaTime, depending on if you like it or not. Personally, I like it. I like these kinds of conversations. So you're welcome to come back anytime, TeaTime. There you go. Let's talk Atox. These are the I don't know if this is a good or a bad change or whatever. I mean, at this point, am I even happy that Atox still exists? Okay, the latest rumor, the latest news, and again, this seems like where they're going because there is some screenshots of them playing as a team. Atox have gone back to like the original team, which is Cabal, Dobu, Zesta, Accuracy, MIQ. Obviously, a couple of those guys coming across from IHC. Potentially
write that down because I haven't heard this one. It's Cabal, Dobu, MIQ.
The same team as before.
Yeah, so Cabal, Dobu, MIQ, the core.
It's Accuracy, Zesta.
Is it Accuracy and Zesta, which was the original...
the guys from Dude Gaming, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I mean, in one way, I'm still happy that Atox exists, and I think looking at that on paper, it's probably still going to be the second best Mongolian team, in my opinion, especially if IHC are affected by that. Because IHC was probably that other team that was kind of like jostling for position. First of all, what does that mean to now IHC's slot at Extremesland? Are they still going to play with, I don't know, whatever. We'll talk about that, I guess, as that news sort of comes through. This Atox change hasn't necessarily been like set in stone or made official. I haven't seen any official announcement about that, but that's just the back channel information that I'm getting from the Mongolian community. But I guess it's kind of good to see Atox still persisting. I just don't think it's going to be as threatening of an Atox as what it was in the last 6 months. And unfortunately, that project didn't play out in the way that we would have liked it to have.
I mean, they'll still be a good team. And as long as you're the second best team from Mongolia, then you're probably going to get a lot of opportunities. Like, you're going to be getting most of the ranking points. You're not going to have to play Mongolz as much if they keep playing as well as they're playing. So you have chances to qualify through Asia qualifiers, depending on how things go next year. So I think it's a good decision given the situation. Like, it sucks to go back to the old roster, and I think that Zesta and Accuracy are still like just okay, and they were okay before, and they're still been just okay in IHC. But I think that core of players and the level that Atox was at that Asia RMR previous to this one was good enough. And I think with the Mongolian scene all over the place like it is, they'll be stable enough to probably be the second best Mongolian team. Do I think that you could be a little bit more creative and maybe scout a little bit better, and there are probably better additions? Yeah, for sure, but it's not like you can get Annihilation back. And as far as like, I really think the only other difference that you could really make in this team is like someone else instead of Zesta. Like, there's so many good Mongolian riflers, you could probably choose someone else, and it might be like slightly better and have a slightly better ceiling. But in terms of AWPers, unless you're getting Annihilation back, then you're kind of strapped for choice.
This seems a joke. I'm very, very upset about this. I hate what they've done, allowing Dobu to go play for Alter Ego. It should have been a, hey, if you leave forever. I don't care how legendary you are. And I say this is someone who absolutely loves Dobu. I've been following his career for the longest time. He abandoned his team when they have a pro league to qualify for, potentially at a time where everyone's talking about, hey, we don't know what Asian rankings are going to look like, etc., etc. And before this, by the way, when Annihilation has his little thing, I'm thinking, you know what, this guy, he's clearly immature, he's clearly talented, but he's too full of himself. Dude, if this is the team environment, then where like Dobu can just up and leave, how serious is this team? Right? And just to remind everyone, Annihilation on LAN at Pro League, which admittedly for a lot of these big teams is not
Mesa Pro League, by the way, not ESL Pro League. Are you talking?
ESL Pro League.
I was going to say, I thought you were going to say he walked out on LAN, and I was going to say that was at a Mongolian event, not at
ESL Pro League. ESL Pro League.
Continue.
He puts up a 144 versus Vitality in a series they lose. He puts up a 141 against ENCE. Decent European opposition. And then, yes, up against Falcons, they bombed out. They didn't do very well. Against Furia, they didn't do very well either. But my point is, if you can't manage the ego of like a player who's this good, I will always blame the player. But if 2 months later, Dobu then quits your team when you could be qualifying for an ESL Pro League over, I don't know, Lynn fucking Vision, who we've all been shitting on for so long. That's all you have to beat, really. And then a Tyloo where JamYoung's going to be planning on dipping out anyway. That's a joke, dude. This team is not serious at all. This organization needs to stop letting the players take control of the team completely. I don't know what their management is doing in this regards. It's a team with actual money behind them as well. It's a team which actually gets sponsors. I think Melbet was sponsoring them at one point as well, which is like, it's the only team that doesn't have to compete with the 1xBet partnerships that is all that goes around in Asia. This is just a joke. Accuracy and Zesta are being brought back in. Brother, Accuracy, I was big on Accuracy, by the way, because I was actually watching him playing from when he was playing in Open and above. Accuracy is not there. Accuracy is going to do nothing internationally, even within like regional internationally. He's not going to do anything at all. Zesta is just not very good either. And if you're looking out towards the rest of the Mongolian scene, maybe it's a buyouts issue, but Zeralte is out there, News is out there, Ariukula is out there. These three players are like legitimate riflers. If anything, I would go to Annihilation at this point and I'd be like, you know what? We're kicking Dobu because we're prioritizing you over him. You come back into our team. We're going to get Zeralte in the hair as well. Cabal's the IGL anyway because Dobu's not IGLing. And listen, that's
Dobu? I think Dobu's the IGL.
No, it's Cabal. It's Cabal. They switched this back and forth.
Last I heard it was Dobu, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was going back and forth.
They switched this a lot, right? So maybe it was Dobu more recently, but I think it was back to Cabal and everything. I just think if you want to be a serious contender, now is not the time to sit down and be like, we can't deal with egos. Brother, you have to deal with egos. You're the second best team in the region, right? Like, just sit down and deal with those egos. I don't know what you have to do. You have to make sure Annihilation has like a separate maid who wakes him up at 10 in the morning and never 9:55. Do that. I don't care. Like, you want to win. This is how you're going to do it. You're not going to win with bringing like Zesta and Accuracy back into a team where, listen, I like Cabal. They're not standout superstar players. They're great role pieces. You need the standout superstars. It's telling me Accuracy is going to be. You're telling me Zesta. Maybe you're saying Dobu, but then what are you going to do when Dobu doesn't qualify for the RMR and then fucks off and makes sure he misses another LAN?
The thing is, like, you had Yami and you had Annihilation, and that was your two star players that you were like, okay, now we've got
and theoretically Dobu,
and Dobu when he's on, or like Cabal has some pretty good maps here and there as well. Like, you have the well.
They've got that old man strength.
You have the well-roundedness of the team to sort of have the ability to sort of challenge the better teams in Asia. But I think, it's definitely a step back in my opinion, and I definitely echo everything that you're saying here. Look, I don't know that I can paint Annihilation in as positive of a light as what you might. I think him walking out on a game, I definitely have an issue with that. I think that's not acceptable at all. But on the same token, if he's seeing this Dobu thing coming and that's a conversation that's happening, I definitely can relate with his perspective of questioning is how serious is this team. And I think that has been the biggest problem with the Mongolian scene that I've been sort of following in, let's say, the last 12, 18, 24 months maybe, since the Mongolz rise to power. Like, they seem to be the only Mongolian team that actually locks down the fucking bullshit. Like, I don't know if there is any bullshit in that team. We never hear about it. We never see it. We never see them arguing.
They fucking kicked everyone that did any bullshit. And Mara's literally just like, get the fuck out of my team. I'm just going to get some 14-year-old.
That may be true. That may be true. And it may be it may be just because they're winning that they don't have these issues, right? Everything's easy when you're winning. But the biggest concern for me with the Mongolian scene, and this is as a general thing, not just a specific team thing in general, is there has been so many opportunities. How many times have we gone, that's a cool looking team, that's going to be a real contender?
Yeah.
And something has broken that team apart. It was the Huns, it was fucking Chinggis Warriors doesn't exist anymore. Fucking Atox has had their issues as well. We've seen no shortage of these interesting potential teams, and something, and a lot of the times the rumors, and I'm not that in depth with the Mongolian scene to know that this is a fact or not, but the rumors always come down to X or Y player was a bit of a dick, was a little bit of a shithead, did this, left the team, fucking egos, whatever got in the way. Like, you know, I mean, what happened to all of these teams? What happened to fucking Stardust in Chinggis Warriors? You know, that was a kid that we were looking at and we're like, man, this kid's fucking sick. Where is he? Where's fucking Stardust? Where's Yami? Where's Annihilation? Where's Score? Where's all of these fucking awesome looking players that are supposed to be the next up and comer? Like, how many talented individual players? And you're telling me you can't put together a second best Mongolian team that can beat fucking GR Gaming in an East Asia qualifier? Like, okay, TeaTime, you like GR Gaming, but let's be real. Like, GR Gaming got fucking owned at the Asia RMR. Atox at the previous RMR were way better than what GR Gaming were.
To be fair, GR was online on 85 ping then.
Sure. But let's just be real. Would we rather see GR Gaming at the RMR?
I agree.
Or the second best Mongolian team, which is actually the actual second best Mongolian team, not fucking whatever random Mongolian team gets put together because of fucking issues. Like, I find it so difficult to believe that Mongolia cannot produce a better team than what they have over the last 12 months. Obviously not talking about Mongolz, but beyond Mongolz, is there not something better that can be put together there in Mongolia? And what is the issue that's keeping that from happening? It seems to me like it's just some overarching ego-driven, player-driven fucking problem within that scene that, what can you do about it? I don't know. I don't know the fix. I'm just here to complain and fucking yap. So that's my 2 cents.
I think you're right. I really do think the fact that, I mean, Blitz kicked Score, man. Like, in the very beginning, you kicked Score of all people. Score was legendary. Like, there was no one, like, when Blitz kicked Score and brought Hashtag in, I was ready to say Mongolz might not make the major at that point. I know we talked about this with then, and like, he made it with Hashtag, who was objectively a bad player, to the major. And this is where I just think the Mongolian scene, it's like, do you guys not understand? Look, I'm from a poor country as well. I know what it's like to have like an economy where your average income is maybe like $400 or $500 a month. You know what that means? If in Counter-Strike, you can make life-changing money playing the game you love.
Yeah, like, you don't even have to be Mongols. You just have to be the second best Mongolian team and get some of these invites.
That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Like, it depends what your goal is. Like, if you want to put together a team that's going to be competitive internationally, then yeah, you have to like. You do have to get players that could perform that way, but that's not what Atox is doing here. They're just putting together the team that is going to win Mongolia.
No, that's what they're doing now.
They don't have like aspirations to do any better than that after the super team blew up. Like
that's what they're doing now. That's not what they were doing before, though. You have to be fair to them. Like, that was like they I think they put together the right pieces, but immediately after that, it's like, well, let's bring back zest and accuracy for the vibes. Kamal, you have a kid already. Let's not raise more of them on the server.
I mean, I don't know, bro. I think that they're going to probably just win Mongolia, most likely. So,
and then
if they're happy with that, then it's a win roster. But if they're not happy with like just being mid internationally, then they have to take some more risks.
Yeah. Anyway, look, all I'll say is, I know there will be people from Mongolia watching this right now, and you know, if you guys have any other information, any 2 cents, let us know, because I can only infer so much from the news that I get and the little rumors that come in my direction, but if you're in chat and you're like, these guys are talking fucking shit, like, just say it. Like, maybe we don't know what's going on. Maybe someone fucking fucked someone's dad and then they're not on the team anymore because of that. That would be pretty bad. And then I'd be like, you know what? Fair enough.
I want to hear about that.
If
like,
someone
comment that down below. Tell me who. Tell me what the details was. What were the positions? Like, I want to know.
It makes so much sense now why we don't see Score anymore. He's a dad fucker. Obviously, that's not the implication that I'm making.
At the same time, though, like there are so many of these Mongolian players that like have these crazy purple patches of form, and then the rest of the time they're fucking mid. Yep. You know, like Bartek hasn't been good for fucking ages. You know, Scores.
Bartek never had a purple. He was never good. Like Bartek was never good.
TeaTime loves to talk in superlatives, though. It's like everything's either the best
No,
or
he
the worst.
wasn't good. He wasn't good.
He can't just be like he can't be average.
Mediocre player. No, if I'm saying
an average player?
He's mediocre, that means he's average.
Right.
Like
I'm just saying, like,
average isn't good. I'm just saying
there are so many Mongolian
That's
players.
good.
There are so many Mongolian players who like look really sick for a while, and then like they're just kind of like shit.
Like, why is it that China has 3 decent teams? Like, okay, Lynn Vision's probably not decent anymore, but Tyloo, Rare Adam, and Lynn Vision, are all currently better than Atox. Agree or disagree?
True, Lynn Vision beat Atox.
The current Atox?
Yes.
Disagree.
The current, if we play, okay, maybe Lynn Vision, maybe
maybe
Lynn Vision,
with
maybe
the same rosters for like another couple of months, and we play an Asia tournament.
That's in a couple of months, mate.
What's that?
That's in a couple of months.
It's in a couple of months. We're talking now.
Talking now.
Right now.
Talking right now.
Yeah.
I think current Atox would probably give Lynn Vision a run for their money.
Maybe.
I'm not even memeing, bro.
Okay.
I don't think Lynn Vision is good at all.
But my point is, why is that even a conversation, right? When you look at the talent that's coming through in Mongolia, should it not just be like, this fucking second Mongolian team is just better than Lynn Vision? Like, by
also, can I just remind everyone, like, I mean, we're talking about how Blitz is fine with like kicking players. He also picked up Senzu, who was maybe the most controversial player you could pick up, not in terms of skill level, but in terms of like the things he was accused of doing. And, you know, it came out about him on NKT with all of the, you know, I'm not going to get into the specifics, but he has a very controversial past. We talked about it on this podcast.
Everyone knows.
But listen, I don't want to, he was a younger kid, and I would like to believe he's moved on from that part in life and wouldn't want to be associated with it, right? Like, so point is, he did some ill-advised, morally ambiguous things that would have probably meant that he shouldn't have been given a chance like this. If Blitz can pick up Senzu, like, you can't maybe go out of your comfort zone. You can't, you know, play nice and go back and admit, you know what, actually, maybe I did mess up. Maybe you did mess up. Let's actually be good now together, right? I mean, Yami went back to Atox after having left them when they were up, when they were on the initial come up and everything as well. Guys, it's okay. It's a sport. Play with people who fucked your dads.
Yeah, I don't think that's what people do in esports, though. Like, I've been in so many teams, I've coached so many teams, and then you miss out on generational wealth. Honestly, bro, like, the interpersonal relationships and who likes who with these young kids who play esports is more important than winning most of the time, or more important than, like, you know, putting together the best team, especially in like smaller domestic regions. I swear to God, that is what matters most of the time. You know, it's like that old nip shit. But I don't know, bro. I think Mongolz is so good because of Blitz and Mara, and I legit think they could fucking pick up any Mongolian player and they'd still be fucking amazing. Like, they picked up 910 and Mizuno when there was so many players they could have picked up, and they fucking still were amazing. Like, I just think, I don't know, Mongolia's missing some more good leadership or some shit. I don't know.
Maybe. Anyway, look, I think we've talked about Mongolia enough. You know I can see TeaTime. He's ready to fucking jump in here and take us on another 4-hour journey. He's going to fucking take us all the way to Europe when, you know, we're on the train. And I want to get off. I want to get off this fucking train. But TeaTime's like, no, we're going to go all the way to Berlin. Anyway, look, we've got one more thing to talk about. Visas. Yeah, good. Fucking thank God for that. Let's talk about somewhere a little bit closer to home, TeaTime. You want to talk about the Faceit expanding into the Middle East? Now, I have no idea what this is. So this is your segment. Go ahead.
Right. So for context, Faceit recently announced that they're going to be introducing official matchmaking to the Middle East, which is going to be on the Dubai servers. So if people don't know, the Middle East, you know, the geographical landmass is obviously split into the Levant region and the GCC region, which is the Gulf countries and states. Within Counter-Strike, Gulf countries also ends up including South Asia, right? So Pakistan and India also very often play on Dubai servers because we get very low ping there. And Faceit expanding over here is really big. It opens up an ESEA open system over here as well. It means there's going to be actual, you know, ways to rank teams going into things like RMRs and everything as well. It means there's official matchmaking. Well, before, if you wanted to, so I'm from Pakistan, and if I'm playing on Faceit servers right now, I get 100 ping to 140 ping, depending on if I'm playing Singapore or Europe. If I want to pay like $10 a month, I can play on 45 ping on Dubai. But that's if I'm paying $10 a month, so which most people aren't willing to do. So this is actually a really big deal, just in terms of bringing in new talent and bringing in people who actually have access to high-level matchmaking. do potentially qualifiers in the future, because I'm sure that that's going to be a thing as well, where ESL, obviously with their ownership being Saudi, they're going to have like more Middle Eastern interest when it comes to having like regional qualifiers. We've seen this go the direction of that in Dota already as it stands, where there is like a bit of a joke qualifier for most people for ESL events, which is like the Meswak qualifier. But all I'm saying is it's going to be nice to have a lot more people added into actual matchmaking, a lot more talent being able to say, hey, we're going to be playing. And also, it's going to be a lot easier to host tournaments. So for small tournament organizers, before you had to pay like $3,000 if you wanted to rent out Dubai servers, aren't enough to be able to do like open qualifiers and things like that. I'm assuming that with Faceit having this expansion, it's going to be free to host tournaments the same way it is in Southeast Asia and whatnot. So, for example, if tomorrow I'm like, hey, you know what? I've got a small sponsor who can give me $1,000 a month, and I want to start doing these small cups and everything the way like the Dust to India guys are doing in India, where they're getting good teams registrations and stuff like that as well. That's going to be a lot easier to manage. So yeah, it's cool news for enabling of a new region in Asia, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, can't hurt. Basically, that's my takeaway. So.
Yeah, basically. Is it going to help Pakistan be relevant? No. But is it going to help me tell Pakistani players you suck and it's not because of ping, stop being awful? Yeah.
I don't know.
I said, well.
All right. Well, I think that pretty much wraps us up then. Pretty good episode. I like that one. That was fun. We'll be back next week, hopefully with Bleh in tow, to discuss what's going to happen at the major and how well the Mongolz are going to go and how they're going to go 3-0 and win everything. And yeah, that's pretty much where we're going to be at. But otherwise, pretty good app. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you, TeaTime, for taking the time. And obviously you, Pilski, even though you were late. No one had to know, though. That's fine. I'll just call you out like that.
I got to be honest, I forgot this podcast was on. I was walking my dogs, and Jordan called me on the telephone. And I was like, Jordan, what's wrong?
I said, what are you up to, Pilski? Like we live in the same city anymore. Maybe I'll come around, have a hangout, have a beer tonight. So what are you up to, mate? And he's like, oh, it's podcast time. podcast time. Anyway, all good. Got it done. And we'll see you guys next week. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and buymeacoffee.com/Elfishguy if you'd like to give some money. That'd be much appreciated. Otherwise, we'll catch you next time. Peace. Hey guys, just at the end of this video, I'd like to give a quick shout out to Jean, who is my first supporter on buymeacoffee.com. If you'd also like to support me financially or any of my content, make sure to check out the link. It is in the description box below.